Black history. It ain't no mystery. Black history. It ain't no mystery. Black history. It ain't no mystery.
Harriet Tubman, Mr. New School's Black History Spotlight. I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. Known as the Moses of her people, Harriet Tubman is the most well-known conductor of the Underground Railroad. She was born into slavery as Araminta Ross around 1820 in Dorchester County, Maryland. Her parents, Harriet and Ben Ross, had 9 children together. Childhood was harsh for Harriet, as she endured frequent whippings and punishment by her owner and others whom she was hired out to work for. Around the age of 12, Harriet refused to help tie up a man who attempted to escape. As a result, she was hit in the head with a heavy metal weight by a white overseer. This injury would affect her for the rest of her life, as she would suffer headaches, seizures, and blackouts. Tubman also began to have vivid dreams and premonitions. She stated that God would speak to her. Harriet would marry a free man named John Tubman in 1844. John did not share Harriet's aspiration to head north for freedom, as he was already free. This would lead to their separation years later, when she escaped and he refused. In 1849, after her owner died, fearing that she would be sold, Harriet escaped the plantation and headed north for Pennsylvania for freedom. In 1850, Harriet was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, leading her first slaves to freedom. Harriet would ultimately lead her family members, including her parents, friends, and others, through the path of the Underground Railroad, from safe house to safe house, until Freedom Land was reached. The 1850 Fugitive Slave Act was also passed during this period of time. This act required that all escaped slaves be returned to their owners, even if caught in free territory. By law, officials and citizens would have to cooperate, and any interference would yield harsher penalties of $1,000 fine and jail time. This prompted the Underground Railroad to take more secure measures in efforts to ensure its success. During the 1850s, Harriet would travel back and forth, down south and back north, guiding enslaved people to free states and Canada. Bounties were posted for Moses, the name that Harriet became known as. Bounties for $40,000. Maryland issued a $12,000 bounty. This would not faze Tubman, as she continued to lead slaves to freedom. Between 1852 and 1857, she conducted at least 11 trips from Maryland to Canada, including one trip in which a passenger became frightened and wanted to go back. Concerned that the man would return south and tell what he knew about the Underground Railroad, Harriet pointed her gun at him and said, "Dead folks tell no tales." At that point, the passenger continued to freedom. In 1859, Tubman purchased her first home in Auburn, New York. Friends and family stayed with her. She would take her last trip to Maryland in 1860. Over the 10-year span, Tubman took at least 19 trips and escorted at least 300 passengers to freedom. As Harriet put it, "I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." In 1861, she served as a spy and scout during the American Civil War. In 1863, she led an assault in the Combahee River Raid, in which at least 700 enslaved people were set free, making Harriet Tubman the first woman to lead an assault during the Civil War. In 1865, at war's end, Tubman went home to Auburn, New York. Harriet married Nelson Davis in 1869, and in 1874, they adopted a baby girl named Gertie. Nelson died in 1888. Later in life, Tubman focused on the cause of women's suffrage. She traveled to Washington, D.C., Boston, and New York, speaking for women's rights. Harriet would be the keynote speaker at the National Federation of Afro American Women in 1896. Harriet would die from pneumonia in 1913. Her legacy speaks for itself, and I am truly grateful for her contributions. Harriet once said, "Don't ever stop. Keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going." Interesting fact about Harriet Tubman. In order to fix her sleep problems, Harriet underwent brain surgery in which she refused anesthesia. Instead, she chose to chew on a bullet like the Civil War soldiers would do during limb amputation procedures.
Black history. It ain't no mystery. Black history. It ain't no mystery. Black history. It ain't no mystery.